already lots of other places. We know that there are lots of alcohol issues and problems in this country, so why open up any more outlets?
National MP Stuart Smith and Jamie Lee Ross touring China as guests of infant formula manufacturer GMP Dairy, which donated $25,000 to National last year. They met with GMP Dairy customers and distributors and attended a food safety conference. Salespeople for the company, says Labour. Prime Minister John Key says donations to National should not prevent the party's MPs from being engaged. So it's a Chinese wall of sorts that has to be applied in a way. What do you think of these kinds of arrangements?
I think it's wrong in every sense of the way. Government ministers shouldn't be hosted by private companies like that and meet their customers. There's different ways. How were they presented? Were they sort of saying, look, we're in with the government of New Zealand, we're bringing out some of their ministers to talk to you and things? I think it's inadvisable.
Tony?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. It sends a bad message, and it seems that this is a message that National is quite happy to send from the past.
Fibbing foreigners should forfeit their land. Not a bad headline today. That's what New Zealand First's Ron Mark says. The government yesterday said the Overseas Investment Office will hike its fees, hire more staff, speed up its processes. And, of course, there's been more pressure on the OIA this week. As we know, it had to apologise for failing to conduct a robust inquiry when it approved the sale of Onotai Station in Taranaki to two Argentinian brothers who had been found criminally responsible for chemical dumping at their tannery near Buenos Aires. And Land Information Minister Louise Upston said the one OIO worker who had the information didn't put it in application documents which were sent on to ministers, and that person may no longer work for the office, apparently. What does this sound like to you in terms of the department's competence? They can't, says David Cunliffe, even do Google searches. They're relying on statutory declarations.
It's hard. They're probably, under-resourced and underfunded like everybody else, but these are pretty serious decisions they're making. I mean, we get them, they get released publicly on the last working day of each month, last business day of each month, and we all look through them, and it's very, very rare that anything is ever turned down. So with that sense, you do kind of go, oh, really? How closely are they looking at all this?
Well, when you're making money, one of the sort of prime features about people's applications to come to the country, like Kim.com, for example, then the chances are that the money is going to be more important than some of the other aspects to these people. And that may be a little bit of a problem. Perhaps we should be looking at the person first and the cash later.
Absolutely. It's hard for the ministers, I guess, because they can only rely on the information they're supplied by officials, but then we don't know what pressure the officials were under and what information they had access to.
As 5 o'clock looms, we're just going to go out with a tiny... Well, not going to go out, we're just going to play you a tiny snatch. Seeing as we started with Mother's Day, of this music. This is the Dutch boy who sang... We've been listening to this in the office this afternoon. He sang the ultimate song to his mother, the boy soprano Heinche. Well, you're about to hear, he could really sing. He could really sing. And this sold millions, and he sang because his father got a lung disease down the mines, and Heinche had to support his family at age 12, and he did it with this. And I think he lives in the Belgian countryside these days, Heinche. And occasionally busloads of the elderly will stop and tap on his windows and try and get a look at him.
That's some voice. He sounds like he should be in the Eurovision Song Contest.
He had a heck of a voice, actually, Heinche. And that was his big song, Mama. Can I ask what you're doing for your mothers, please, on Mother's Day?
I took her to the Shakespeare pop-up globe this week. She's had her day.
That's tons.
I will be cooking her dinner.
Well, that's two fantastic things you're doing. Tony, anything happening in your household?
I sent her a card. I hope it gets there, actually.
What, last year?
No, I've sent it this year.
Okay.
I've actually sent it. I put it in the mail and got the stamp and did the whole thing. In fact, I asked the post office to help me with the postcode, but they said it was not necessary.
How do you mean they said it was not necessary?
They said, oh, you don't need the postcode, just stick it in the box.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
I suppose that keeps more people employed.
Jim, you didn't check that we both still had our mothers.
Oh,
you asked us that question live on air.
Actually, I don't have time to explain, but I did do some checking, as a matter of fact.
Okay, I take it back.
Happy Mother's Day on Sunday. Have a good weekend. Alan Reid, Tony Doe, very nice to have you both on today.
Kia ora everyone, welcome to Checkpoint on RNZ National. I'm John Campbell. On behalf of the Checkpoint team, thank you for joining us. Tonight, if you can watch us on Freeview Channel 50 or live streaming on the RNZ website, we are about to show you pictures from Fort McMurray unlike anything we have ever seen before. Gridlock as people hastily evacuated from their homes, try to drive down roads completely surrounded by flames. But if you're cooking or you're stuck in traffic and you're listening on the radio, we'll tell you the extraordinary story of the man whose dashboard camera filmed those scenes as he and thousands of others drove for their lives. Also from Canada, the Syrian refugees who know what losing everything is like and are donating what they can to the Fort McMurray families. How the Republican establishment across the border is not embracing Donald Trump, some delicious hospital food, the fort politics of the Waihi Dam, and much, much more. But we begin, as always, with Katrina Batten in RNZ News.
Kia ora, good evening. A gang brawl inside the Tokoroa District Court forced staff and the judge to lock themselves in a safe area of the court where the fight made the walls move. Tracy Klenner from the PSA, which represents court staff, says the union has been raising security issues with the ministry for some time.
The public and the judiciary were scared for their safety and they locked themselves in the kind of exit rooms that are at the back of the courtrooms, and that the violence was of such a nature that there were people getting thrown about, and it was enough to make the kind of walls move about in the courts.
Tracy Klenner says no police officers or security staff were in the court at the time. A Ministry of Justice spokesperson says it will be following up on the incident, but couldn't make further comment because the matter was before the courts. A police spokesperson says 5 people were arrested and 4 have been charged. A guilty finding for a Canterbury man who operated a drone at a forest fire is being held up as a reminder that they're not toys. A judge said it was proved Simon Roy Reeve caused danger to a pilot and his helicopter, and it was possible the helicopter would collide with the drone. Belinda McCammon reports.
The 38-year-old Reeve used the drone to film the fire at Pines Beach near Christchurch in January last year. The Civil Aviation Authority laid 3 charges, including unnecessary endangerment and flying the drone in a controlled airspace without permission. The authority's director, Graham Harris, says the outcome creates awareness of new RPA, or drone, rules that came into effect last August. Reeve will be sentenced in the Christchurch District Court in July, when he could face maximum penalties of up to 12 months in prison or a fine of up to $10,000. In Christchurch, Belinda McCammon.
Thousands of residents who fled the Canadian city of Fort McMurray are being airlifted to safety after again being threatened by a rapidly spreading wildfire. After taking refuge to the north, they face being cut off by the advancing flames. The authorities plan to move about 25,000 people to safety. The Premier of Alberta province, Rachel Notley, says it will be a long time before they can return home.
The heat and the smoke of the fire leading up until late last night was such that we hadn't been able to get in to get an updated assessment of the damage for about 24 hours. So far, the regional firefighters have done a pretty good job of protecting key infrastructure within the city, and that will help when we get to the task of rebuilding.
Rachel Notley, the Premier of Alberta province. A Northland judge has delayed sentencing an American tourist who caused a fatal crash to give the families of the victims time to consider restorative justice. Thomas Springer, who's 66, appeared in the Kaikohe court this morning after admitting 2 counts of careless driving causing death and 1 causing injury. Lois Williams reports.
The Californian was driving on the right last Saturday when he hit a car head-on near Kirikiri. Virginia Keogh and Kylie Rakic, who was 8 months pregnant, died in the crash. When the judge offered their whānau a restorative justice meeting with Springer, one woman wept and said nothing could bring back her sister. Springer's lawyer said he was willing to meet the whānau, but was suffering from a brain tumour and had medical appointments in the States later this month. He's been remanded for 2 weeks to give family members more time. This is Lois Williams.
Britain's opposition Labour Party looks set to lose ground in regional and local elections. Partial results point to a dip in support that could challenge the authority of the party's leader, Jeremy Corbyn. Britons have been voting to elect new devolved authorities in Scotland and Wales, more than 2,700 local officials across England and a new mayor of London. The elections have been framed as a test of Mr Corbyn's first 8 months in charge of Labour after his surprise victory in an internal leadership contest last September shifted the party's political stance sharply to the left. With more than half of the results from local government elections in England counted, Labour had lost control of a relatively modest 28 seats. But its share of the vote was down 9% in Scotland and nearly 8% in Wales. In sport, the Kiwis Rugby League team believe they can be competitive against Australia in tonight's test in Newcastle, despite a series of distractions in the lead-up to the match. There have been injuries, player withdrawals and well-publicised suspensions. Tohu Harris, who normally spends his time in the forwards, has been moved into the halves for tonight's test alongside Sean Johnson and is confident they'll be up for it.
As long as we give it our best and everyone's doing their job and are on the same page for the whole 80 minutes, we can't play anything less than 80 minutes and beat Australia. It's just it's not possible.
Tohu Harris. The Crusaders remain cautious about their opponents in Super Rugby tonight, knowing the Queensland Reds are a team on the improve. The Crusaders are clear favourites for the clash against the Reds, who have won just 2 games this season. However, as coach Todd Blackadder points out, one of those wins was against the Highlanders.
I saw what they did to the Highlanders in the first 25-30 minutes, and they can be quite devastating. I just think in this competition, like the day you think you're better than what you are, you get put away, and we're not taking anything for granted.
Todd Blackadder. Liverpool beat Villarreal 3-0 to clinch a spot in the final of the Europa League, where they'll meet holders Sevilla, and the Manawatu golfer Tim Wilkinson is tied for 6th after the first round of the latest PGA tournament in North Carolina. That's the news.
G'day, I'm Paul Brennan in for Brian Crump on Nights Tonight. Get ready for our Sonic Tonic, the songs and sounds of speed right after 7. Friday night is International Sports Night. LA Times sports journalist Helene Elliott will join us on the long-awaited return of gridiron football to Los Angeles. And the National Basketball Association playoffs are on. Officials have been making incorrect calls. They've had a big impact on games. What's going on? Plus, the Country Life team are here again, and there's more. Tonight on Nights, right after the news at 7 on RNZ National.
Met Service weather to midnight tomorrow. Northland, Auckland and Coromandel Peninsula, scattered showers, mainly north of Auckland City, some possibly heavy tomorrow. Waikato to Wellington, including the central high country, and from Gisborne to Wairarapa, fine or becoming fine this afternoon or evening. Areas of fog tomorrow morning. Nelson, Buller, Marlborough and Canterbury, fine. Southland and Otago, high cloud tomorrow with a few spots of rain about western Otago. Westland becoming cloudy tomorrow. Fiordland, drizzle about the fjords, turning to widespread rain tonight. And the Chatham Islands, low cloud tomorrow with late drizzle. It's just gone 5:08.
Thank you very much indeed, Katrina. We begin tonight in Canada, where the word catastrophe is in order. The wildfire that began in Fort McMurray is now burning ferociously across an area of 850 square kilometres. To put that in context, that's more than 3 times the size of Abel Tasman National Park. 88,000 residents have been forced to leave their homes, many with very little warning. And now people in evacuation centres up to 50 kilometres away are being asked to evacuate again. An unknown number of homes, schools and businesses have been lost. But the absence of fatalities is almost miraculous, particularly in the circumstances in which so many people left Fort McMurray. With the flames moving very fast, people had to drive out on roads completely surrounded by fire. And there is possibly no better illustration of that than the footage from the dashboard camera of Fort McMurray resident Michelle Chamberlain. Gridlock as household after household evacuates onto roads in corridors of flame. His pictures, which are extraordinary, and you can see them if you're watching online or on Channel 50 on Freeview, have gone around the world as somehow he and his neighbours made it out. It's total gridlock in the suburb of Beacon Hill, Fort McMurray. This is yesterday afternoon. The camera on the dashboard of resident Michelle Chamberlain's ute captures flames all along the right-hand side of the road. They're really close, and they're big, and they're moving fast. And his reaction as he realises how serious the situation is.
Oh my God.
Just a few minutes earlier, not far away, Michelle had been deep asleep. He'd just finished a night shift, but was woken by a friend telling him to get out now.
I got that call, I wasn't sure if his information was accurate, and until I looked for myself outside, and you could see the smoke, the flames. You can hear the flames crackling behind my neighbors' homes there, in the trees beyond. It really hit me, and I was like, wow, I got to go. It was a pretty worrisome scene for me at that, realizing that. Where was the warning? The evacuation. This was a really late call. That fire must have spread out of control pretty darn quick.
As emergency services desperately went from door to door, yelling for people to leave, Michelle grabbed what he could.
Bag of clothes, wallet, passport, and hopped in the truck. And immediately was at the end of the traffic line. There was a long line up to get out, and it was slow moving. It felt like a long time. As we slowly moved and crept forward, those flames started to get bigger and bigger, and the wind changing all the time is just fueling that fire. You would see the flames jump to another tree and slowly work its way up, and eventually overtop the tree, and then embers falling down, smoke. Your eyes start to get watery. You could feel the heat from the trees.
There is heavy traffic heading south, really heavy. They are almost stuck. The flames and visibility worsening, embers littering the road, falling onto the bonnet.
In the videos, you'll see us pull over to the left. That's because and you'll notice the screen glowing more orange, and that's when we were starting to feel. You could feel the heat. We were worried about the car catching on fire, or breaking down, or a tire popping, or you're going through your mind. Am I gonna start driving in our lane? Start driving on people's yards, over the fence? You thought about it.
Traffic is now gridlocked. Michelle has just half a tank of petrol when he reaches the highway out of town. The lights are out and police are desperately directing traffic.
You try to keep your cool, we'll get through this. It's slowly moving. You don't want to cause an accident either, or hurt somebody, or get yourself hurt and get yourself in a more worse situation. You just try to keep cool, try not to panic.
Michelle's commute to his parents' home in Edmonton is 5 hours.
Thankfully, I beat most of the gridlock and the traffic. It's a good 430 to 460 kilometers away.
Along the way, he passes through Anzac. Its residents, along with those from so many small communities, are also under mandatory evacuation, most unsure about where to go or what will happen next. Some stretches of highway have been converted into makeshift campgrounds.
It's very stressful. You don't know what's burned and what's not burned, when you can go back, and now you're sitting here and all you see is red flames. It's pretty scary.
This will be Canada's costliest natural disaster ever, as firefighters from around the world now fly in to help battle 50 separate blazes across the province of Alberta.
Damage has been done. There's not much you can do. Let all the professionals do what they can do. Either they're out there doing a lot of hard work and what they can. A lot of firefighters and police and the EMTs, and a lot of the community working hard around the clock to battle that fire.
Michelle is insured, but it's too early to say if he will have a home to return to or a community to return to.
I can't believe that happened. I can't believe that happened in my community, and all these homes are gone now. And a lot of people are, devastated, lost a lot of memories, and it's just barren, charred, flat. You can't believe everything's gone.
Michelle Chamberlain talking to us over the top of his own footage earlier this afternoon. With 88,000 people now evacuated and that number growing, there are tens of thousands of people who have driven away from their homes with nothing more than they could hastily fit in their cars. Watching this unfold, a group of new Canadians, the Syrian refugees the country began taking in last year. The government of Canada is resettling 25,000 Syrian refugees, and the first of them are now living there, having started from nothing after losing everything. It's a small thing in terms of the total aid and support coming in, but when Rita Kanchet saw images of the wildfire destroying thousands of homes, she turned to her fellow Syrian refugees on the Facebook page they use. What can we give, she said. A family from Aleppo, once Syria's second largest city, now even by Syrian standards a kind of hell. A family who lost everything they had, whose home was destroyed by a rocket, and who knows what it's like to have to run outside and get in your car and drive.
Yeah, it's very hard. And when we heard about what happened for Fort McMurray, immediately I remember everything which we went through in Syria. Everything. It's not easy to lose everything.
How did you lose everything in Syria? What happened to your home?
Yeah, we lived in Aleppo. Me and my husband, my son. After that, it took place there. There are a lot of terrorist people fighting everywhere, blood destroyed, everything. So we go out of Aleppo with our clothes, and that's it.
And so you know exactly what it is like to lose your home, to lose all your belongings.
Yeah.
And so when this happened to people in Fort McMurray, what did you decide to do?
When I heard about that, I think nobody all over the world can understand their feeling like us. Because we pass through the same thing, the same suffering. It's not easy when you go out your home, which you spend all your life in it, which you collect all your items, dear items, clothes, your children toys, everything in this home. It's not only about the wall, the window, the door. It's about your memories there, about your everyday the details you live there. Everything there, even our wedding picture there, even our my son clothes, my son toys, our dear thing there. And when it's your life on dangers, you have to lift everything, to lift everything behind you and go. When I heard about what happened at Fort McMurray, I remember all of that, and I decide now I can do something. And when I arrived to Canada, a lot of Canadian people helped me a lot. Now it's our duty to help them, because when I were in need, they helped me. Now they need my help, so I have to do something. I post in the Facebook, we have to do something. We start to collect money from the Syrian refugees. And today morning, we go to superstore and buy the basic thing like toilet paper, shampoo, water, bottled water, something like that. And Saturday, we will send them to Edmonton.
Rita Kanchet, a new Canadian who arrived from Syria in December last year after losing everything her family had in Aleppo, who is coordinating the relief work by Syrians to help Canadians. 19 minutes past 5. Let's head home now. A northern judge has delayed sentencing an American tourist who caused a fatal crash to give the families of the victims time to consider restorative justice. Thomas Springer, who's 66, appeared in the Kaikohe District Court this morning after pleading guilty this week to 2 charges of careless driving causing death and 1 causing injury. We spoke to the families of one of the people killed earlier in the week. The Californian has admitted he was driving on the right-hand side of the road last Saturday night when he rounded a bend in State Highway 10 and hit a car head-on. 2 women, including Kylie Rakic, who was 8 months pregnant, died at the scene, and family members were in court today for the hearing. Our Northern reporter Lois Williams was also there. I asked her why Thomas Springer's sentencing was delayed.
Well, John, the judge wanted to give the families of the two women who died the option of having a restorative justice hui. So that's when the victims of the crime meet the person that's hurt them, and they get a chance to talk about how it's affected them and so forth. And the offender gets a chance to apologise in person and talk about what happened. So it's entirely up to the victims whether they want to do this. In this case, the partners and the whānau of the two women to decide if they want to go through with this. Mr Springer's lawyer said that he was willing to do this, but it's up to the families.
And was there any immediate response from the families?
Yes, there was. The judge asked the whānau sitting in court what they thought, and there was a very sort of emotional response from one woman who said that nothing would bring back her sister. The judge said that these conferences could be very helpful, but it was clearly too soon, too raw for the family to decide this. So he wanted to give them some time to discuss it with victim support and think about it. So he's put off the sentencing in the meantime.
OK, so the ball is in the family's court around the restorative justice hui. What did Thomas Springer's lawyer say whilst all of this was going on?
This is Mike Dodds, and he said that his client is in a bad way over this. He said he's not about to forgive himself anytime soon, and he desperately wants to atone for this fatal mistake that he made, driving on the wrong side of the road. He argued against allowing reporters to take a photo of Springer. He said this is a small community. There's bound to be some vilification and anger, and this tourist couple are effectively, they're alone in a strange country, he said, with no friends or relatives to support them. He also revealed that Springer is suffering from a brain tumour. There were no further details volunteered, but he said he was due back in the States towards the end of the month, this month, for some fairly serious tests and so on. So I guess the upshot is, though, according to the judge, he wouldn't allow photos to be taken at this point, but he said Mr Springer will have to stay in the country a bit longer until this is resolved and the whānau gets the chance to decide what it wants to do.
Yeah, there's simply no way around that. Although Mr Springer needs the treatment, obviously the restorative justice hui may or may not occur, and then there will be some form of sentencing.
That's right. So it's all a bit up in the air at the moment, especially for the Springers, I suppose. He's here with his wife. And I understand he'd just retired. So they're just a newly retired couple, and they'd come to this country for a few days' holiday, and suddenly they find themselves in this absolute nightmare.
Gosh, this is a tragic case. It was Lois Williams, our Northland reporter, of course. Now, we just want to clarify one thing. We've heard from Thomas Springer's lawyer, and he says that whilst Mr Springer is being treated for some form of brain tumour, that does not appear to have rendered him less capable of driving the car. It does appear to have simply been an error, a man who is used to driving on the other side of the road, forgetting what happens in New Zealand. Coming up on Checkpoint, a landmark decision. A Canterbury man who flew a drone over a forest fire has been found guilty of breaching new CAA rules. Obviously, this is a precedent. Why Waikato Hospital reckons they're serving up the best hospital food in the country. Take that, Dunedin. And the Chinese squatters holding developers to ransom. We'd love to hear from you in any way you choose. Text 2101. If you're using a phone, email checkpoint@radionz.co.nz, or, of course, we are on Twitter and Facebook. In hide and seek, the person seeking yells, "Coming, ready or not?" Well, the Republican Party establishment appears to feel exactly that way about Donald Trump. A growing number of senior Republicans say they're not ready to support Donald Trump in his bid for the presidency, even though he's now the party's presumptive candidate in November's election. Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the fairly tribal character, became the latest top Republican to distance himself from Mr Trump. Two former Republican presidents and two former presidential candidates have also said they won't attend the party's convention this summer, at which Mr Trump is to be formally anointed unless something very strange happens. Our Washington correspondent Simon Marks reports.
If there were any doubts whatsoever about the problems Donald Trump is going to have unifying the Republican Party around his candidacy, they were dispelled in a dramatic appearance on television by Paul Ryan. Mr. Ryan is the Speaker of the House of Representatives and, under the terms of the Constitution, second in line for the presidency after Vice President Joe Biden. He took to CNN to announce that he is, as he put it, not ready to throw his weight behind the Trump train.
Basically, as a conservative, I want to see a verification that our conservative principles will be championed, will be run on, will be represented, and will be brought to the public in the country in a way that's appealing for us to be successful. Now that we have a presumptive nominee who is going to be our standard bearer, I think it's very important that there's a demonstration that our standards will be bared.
That is a huge blow for Mr. Trump, the most powerful Republican in Washington, ignoring pleas from the party's chairman to line up behind the party's presumptive presidential candidate. And there were other blows. 2 former Republican presidents, both named George Bush, announced they will sit the presidential campaign out and won't help Mr. Trump in his quest to win the position they once held. Mitt Romney, the last Republican to seek the presidency, said he'll boycott the Republican convention in Cleveland. And one of the party's elder statesmen, Senator John McCain, was caught on mic expressing concerns about Mr. Trump's impact on his own re-election hopes.
Here in Arizona, no doubt that this may be the race of my life.
The race of his life, he told funders, because Donald Trump has alienated the Hispanic voters who make up 30% of the Arizona electorate. Trump loyalists continue to insist the party must rally behind him. At Republican headquarters here in Washington, it's reported that staffers have been given until the end of the week to get behind Donald Trump or go and find another job. All of which is grist to Hillary Clinton's political mill. She released a new campaign ad in which she allows Mr. Trump's fellow Republicans to do her dirty work for her.
The bullying, the greed, the showing off. I'm really rich. The misogyny, the absurd third-grade theatrics.
Count to 10, Donald. Count to 10.
He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot.
A narcissist at a level I don't think this country's ever seen.
We'll be hearing a lot more of that in the months between now and November, but more immediately, having won the nomination battle, it's clear that to be politically viable, Donald Trump must still wage the ultimate Republican Party war. For Checkpoint, I'm Simon Marks in Washington.
5:27. Hospital food has got a bad rap of late. The Southern District Health Board has come under fire for food served up by its new contractor, Compass Meals, with opposition parties, unions and lobby groups all saying the food's so bad it has to go. We've covered that a bit. But in complete contrast, the Waikato District Health Board reckons it's doing a fine job of feeding its patients. In fact, it says its food is so good, people sometimes ask for menus to take home. And it has a 99% satisfaction rating. So our reporter Andrew McRae went to the Waikato Hospital kitchen to check out their claims for himself.
With me here in the kitchen at Waikato Hospital, I have one of the cooks, Lynn Kempwa. Lynn, what's it like working here?
Oh, beautiful. It's a very nice place to work, and kind of like you feel like when you get up in the morning, say, really want to go to work, things like that. And people here is very nice to work with, and the manager team is very supportive for staff, and it's really good teamwork.
You have a big team here.
Yes.
Turning out a lot of meals every day, dinner, lunch and breakfast of course.
Yes, and Meals on Wheels as well, yes.
So how do you keep up the quality and the tastiness of the food?
Well, we kind of just like you cooking at home, but you have to speed up a little bit. You cook with love. You cook with love, with passion. When patient compliment back to you and make you feel like, feel better. We want to do a better job. Yeah.
By all accounts, the response from most of the patients is very positive.
Yes.
So why do you think that is? They obviously appreciate the meals, but you're obviously putting something into the food that they find tasty.
Yes, love. Love is very tasty. Yes, make everybody happy. Yeah.
So a different menu every day.
Yeah.
What's on tonight's menu?
Tonight's menu is we got roast beef, we got roast potato, and we got vegetarian option is vegetable frittata, pumpkin frittata. Yes. Tonight.
And you also have to cater for those with special dietary needs.
Yes, and extra care. Tonight, our special on Checker is pork chops and pork schnitzel, and we got vegan sausages as well.
I believe the Maori kai option is also very popular.
Oh yes, very popular. Most of the time we run out of Maori kai, so we have once a week. This week we have on Tuesday, and next week we have on Wednesday.
What's in that dish?
We got a beef brisket, silver beet, cabbage, and doughboy. Yes, and we serve aside with pumpkin, kumara.
Well, looking at the food, it looks really tasty, and I guess it's the sort of food that you'd be happy to serve your own family and eat yourself.
Yes, of course, yes. We cook like what we want to eat at home, like home cooked meal. That's what they need, patient need in here when they're in hospital and not well. Yeah.
Thank you, Lynn.
You're
Keep
welcome.
up the good work.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, Lynn. That was Andrew McRae with Lynn in the kitchen of Waikato Hospital. Coming up on Checkpoint before 6 o'clock, Hawke's Bay Regional Council has accused council officials of withholding information over the failure of the Waihi Dam. In a landmark case, a drone operator is found guilty of flying in controlled airspace over a forest fire, and a rescue effort is underway to save a 60-year-old mosaic sitting in an Auckland theatre set for demolition. All of that and much more coming up. Shares in Sky Television. Dive today, known as sitting beside me to discuss that. But before all of that, Katrina Batten with the headlines.
A gang brawl inside the Tokoroa District Court forced staff and the judge to lock themselves in a safe area of the court while the fight made the walls move. Tracy Klenner from the PSA union, which represents court staff, says at the time no police officers or security staff were in the court. A police spokesperson said no one was injured in the incident and 5 people were arrested, with 4 of them charged. A guilty finding for a Canterbury man who operated a drone to film a forest fire at Pines Beach near Christchurch last year is being held up as a reminder that they're not toys. A judge said it was proved Simon Roy Reeve caused danger to a pilot and his helicopter. The Civil Aviation Authority laid 3 charges, including unnecessary endangerment. The authority says the outcome creates awareness of new drone rules that came into effect last August. Thousands of residents who fled the Canadian city of Fort McMurray are being airlifted to safety after again being threatened by a rapidly spreading wildfire. Having taken refuge in the north of the city, they're facing being cut off by the advancing flames. The authorities plan to move about 25,000 people to safety, a third of them by air. New Plymouth Mayor Andrew Judd has announced he won't seek a second term in office. Mr Judd says he knows he's lost support over his move for a Māori ward, which was overwhelmingly rejected in a referendum last year. He says he's been spat at and abused in the streets and doesn't want to see the issue rehashed ahead of October's local body elections. A Northland judge has delayed sentencing an American tourist who caused a fatal crash to give the families of the victims time to consider restorative justice. Thomas Springer, who's 66, appeared in the Kaikohe court this morning after admitting 2 counts of careless driving causing death and 1 causing injury. Those are the headlines. I'll have more news, sport and weather at 6.
Thank you very much indeed. Katrina, let's go to business news now with Nona Peltier, ending the week with us in the studio. Nona, Shares in Sky TV dive through after the pay TV operator announced a fall in subscriber numbers in the past few months.
That's right, 45,000 fewer core residential subscribers. So those are people, who's not the online. Right. This is, the traditional, turn your TV on, watch your Sky. Right. Yeah, 45,000 fewer.
Year on year?
Actually, I think the numbers, it's hard to tell exactly, but I would suspect it's actually been in the last few months, probably since the end of December.
Right.
And the reason why is that a lot of people signed up to watch the Rugby World Cup and then didn't renew. Would you be one of those? Yeah, I don't know.
But you see, the advantage Sky has for me, even though, Sky's expensive, but I'm a rugby fanatic. And if you want to watch the Super 18 or Super 247 or however many teams are in that damn competition now, you have to have Sky.
Yeah, so what happened was they didn't renew, most of them. Most of them were people who just simply didn't renew. So Sky's hopeful that that the numbers will plateau now, and then they'll start to see a creep back up with the Olympics coming up in August.
Absolutely.
And then the Lions tour coming up, which
2017.
that's your big deal. I tell you.
Second only to the Rugby World Cup is when the Lions come to town.
Yeah, so there's some excitement around that, obviously, right, John? So it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, they were predicting this. However, the markets still didn't like it, and that's because it's going to be really hard for them to get those numbers up again. And it definitely has been disrupted. So television viewing has changed. People are moving towards those online products, Neon and that
Netflix,
these types of things. So Sky did see an increase in those types of subscribers, 25,000 up, but that still is not offsetting that loss that they've got there. And so, yeah, their share price fell 16%. Yeah, that's right, 16%.
Holy moly, that's a big dip in a single day.
It is a big dip. It was like, it was 86 cents.
Wow. Have you been talking to someone, Nona? I only say that because it says Nona's been talking to someone.
That's right, Kirsty Way.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a listen to what she had to say?
Thanks, Nona.
We're very aware that that is the future, that these online products, Neon, FanPass, and whatever we introduce in the future is where our growth will be. So, that's pleasing to see those products tracking well.
So this is more a transitional situation for the company as it moves from a more online types of services from the old traditional.
Absolutely. I mean, we're very aware that is the future, and that's where future growth will come from. But in saying that, we still have a very significant subscriber base with Sky, over 830,000 customers. So, that is a large customer base, and the Sky product itself, while it's not growing, will certainly be around for some years yet.
Right, so that's Kirsty Way, and the other thing is that those fall in numbers are going to translate into a fall in profit in the 2017 financial year. For this financial year, they're still guiding to the lower end of the range, but it's not a good look, so that's why the market punished them.
Gosh, it's amazing, isn't it, how fast the television business is moving? I mean, what we've seen of MediaWorks is a manifestation of that, but Sky, for a long time, had the pay TV market entirely to itself. Now...
It's all changed, hasn't it? And we've seen a lot.
So fast.
It's been a lot of changes in their television. And so,
let's what
well,
else?
Look, there's something else. The Reserve Bank of Australia surprised the market again by revising down its forecast inflation rate. And so, as a result of that, the market went, we are looking at more interest rate cuts from the Reserve Bank of Australia, and that hadn't been priced in, so they definitely priced it in by marking down that Australian dollar against the US cross, and that took the Kiwi with it. So we saw the Australian dollar lose about a cent against the US, broke below 74 cents, which is, quite low. So at the moment it's about 73.89, 73 cents, 89.
What is it against the Kiwi?
Against the Kiwi, on the cross, the Kiwi's really holding strong, 92.7 cents.
Yeah.
So the New Zealand dollar, for, the New Zealand Australian cross, the New Zealand dollar is strong. But
against the US?
Against the US, not so much. And that's at 68.5 cents. And you can expect to see some movement there depending on what happens overnight, because we're going to have those important US job figures, and the market's going to be looking really closely at what that's telling us about what the US Federal Reserve might do, because all of this really depends on what the US dollar does overnight.
Thanks, Nada. What about the share market? How did that end?
The share market. That's right. Well, despite the fall in Sky, we saw the market, the NZX Top 50 Index rise about 1/3%. That's up 22 points to 6,898.
Nona Peltier, great week.
See you next week.
Yeah, thank you. I look forward to it. Have a lovely weekend, Nona.
Thank you.
We turn now to sport and we go into the water. At the London Olympics, by the way, in 2012, New Zealand won 6 gold medals, right? 5 of them were on the water. Yachting, rowing, canoeing, golds, world records, world champs, world leaders. But it's below the surface that William Trubridge is the best in the world at freediving. No external breathing devices, nothing but his own lungs, his own fitness and his own extraordinary self-control. Now, William Trubridge is so good he effectively competes against himself. On Tuesday in the Bahamas, he broke a world record for the 17th time. He held his breath, went down 124 metres, and 4 minutes and 34 seconds later, he popped back up again. In doing so, he broke his own world record set 2 days earlier, and he knew he could do that because, believe it or not, that dive hadn't gone as well as he'd hoped.
I kind of did, because the 122 wasn't a smooth dive. I had a problem at the bottom which lost me time and took me out of the right kind of headspace. and that made the ascent really difficult, but I still was able to complete the dive. So I felt like if I didn't screw up on the bottom, I could do a deeper depth.
How did you screw up at the bottom? What went wrong?
It was a minor thing. It was just like a fumble, maybe 5 seconds that I lost trying to put the tag, which is the proof that we use to show that we've been to that depth. You have to bring back a tag from the bottom. Trying to attach that to Velcro on my wetsuit, which normally doesn't take any extra time at all, but in this case, I couldn't find the Velcro patch and fumbled around, and then that kind of threw me and took me out of that flow state that we try to get into in deep free dives.
Yeah, it would not be ideal to be thrown in those circumstances. What does that feel like? Is there a minor panic, or are you trained absolutely to respond?
There was a moment of kind of, I guess, panic, yeah, when I was fumbling around, and then I realized, heck, I can't be doing this at 122 meters down. I can't be wasting this time and carrying on like this. So that kind of, panicked me, and I told myself to try and get back in that relaxed state, and I took a few strokes just to slow my mind down and try and refine that state. But I guess the damage was done by that point, because soon after that I started to feel the urge to breathe, which became more and more urgent on the way up, and my technique deteriorated from that kind of that urgency, I guess. So that's why, I felt like if that didn't happen at the bottom, and I could prevent that, there's things I can do in my preparation to kind of visualize what needs to happen. Then I might be able to go a couple of meters deeper, which is what I did on the last day of the comp.
Which is a real insight into you, because some people would think I'm going to retire now, but you just thought, nope, I'm going to do it better, and I'm going to do it better 3 days later. And you did. I mean, you broke your own world record immediately.
Yeah, and part of it was to try and take that bad taste out of your mouth. You know, you want to get back on the horse and do a better dive, and give something better a better example of free diving for the audience as well. So that was my main motivation, and because I felt like I could.
Wow. All of this you've said to our producer is the warm-up for the real pure art that you love, I think, most of all, which is unassisted. Can you explain the difference?
So the record that I set in this competition is free immersion, where you're allowed to use the rope to pull yourself down and back up. And obviously that's a more efficient means of propulsion than just using your hands and feet pushing against the water. But the latter is a purer form of freediving. It's what I consider the purest expression of our species' aquatic potential, really. And in July, on July the 20th, I'm going to be doing another Steinlager live dive broadcast to New Zealand audience. So that's kind of my main fixture for this year, what I'm working towards. And this gives me a boost in confidence, because it shows that I'm able to, I'm obviously performing fairly well in terms of breath hold.
And so, when you say you're testing your limits, do you believe that you can go further? Do you believe that we don't yet understand? And there was a lovely phrase you used before, I wish I could remember it, the possibilities of what human beings can truly do underwater, how long you can stay under, how far down you can go. Do you think we don't yet know that?
We're starting to discover it, I think, in these kind of free dives. And recently in the sport, where there's been some huge advances, but we're starting to plateau in the last 5 or 10 years. So while I don't think we're anywhere near the limit, we're definitely getting closer and getting nearer that ceiling of human performance underwater. And the beauty of one of the beauties of freediving as a sport is that it is the only real aquatic sport, in the sense that we're fully immersed in the water. We're not gliding along the boundary between air and water, or taking air down with us. It's just your body and the water on its own terms. It makes you a fully aquatic being in that sense. So, as an expression of human aquatic potential, freediving is the pinnacle, really. And to be able to kind of define that through these dives is a real privilege, and also an incredible experience at the same time.
William Trubridge, in case you missed the intro, he's a free diver, he's the best in the world. And this week he set another world record by holding his breath for 4.5 minutes and going down 124 metres, which sounds terrifying to me, but he does it and he loves it. Coming up to 5:45, Hawke's Bay Regional Councillors are accusing council officials of withholding information over the failure of the Waihi Dam. A sluice gate at Eastland Group's Waihi Dam was damaged last September, not fixed until March, costing the Wairoa District Council more than $100,000 to clean up the area's drinking water. This week, RNZ News revealed Eastland has been breaching its consent for years, and the enforcer, the Regional Council, has known this since 2013, but no penalties were issued. An investigation is underway into the dam failure, and officials have told councillors they've received legal advice but will not give it to them. This is an extraordinary story. A councillor for the Hastings Ward, Rex Graham, told our environment reporter Kate Gudsall that the relationship between the council and its councillors is tense.
We wanted much more aggressive action against the owners of the dam, or assertive action, and subsequently they've got a legal report on that which they're refusing to share with us.
Why are they refusing to share it with the councillors?
We have absolutely no idea, because a report such as this could be shared in confidence. It should be perhaps shared in confidence because legal issues may occur from the report. A legal action, could occur from the report. So we understand why they would share it in confidence, but to not share it at all, we find unacceptable.
And why is that unacceptable to you?
Because we are the councillors. We are elected by the people of Hawke's Bay to serve them. We're in charge of the council, not staff. Staff are not in charge. Staff report to the governance body, which is the council. We are the ones who make the decisions on the basis of our shareholders, or if you want to put it in a legal sense, and I see them as shareholders, and not staff. They work for us. We're in charge. Supposed to be in charge. That's a bit of a joke.
And in terms of what the councillors are doing about the fact that the legal advice is being withheld by the council officials, what are you doing about that?
Well, we have asked them formally to release the report to us. There's been no reply to that, so we have gone to the Ombudsman to request them to release the report to us. Subsequently, we have also requested the chairman of our council to provide us access to our lawyer, our council lawyer, so that we can take advice as councillors on this issue.
And what has the response been to that, Rex?
I had no reply.
And when did you ask the chair, Fenton Wilson, about that?
5 days ago.
What are the next steps for the councillors with regard to the Waihi Dam?
We will do everything to get hold of that report. We want to know what went wrong with the dam. We want to know why a commercial venture has polluted our rivers. And we want to know why it happened, how it happened, and what is our redress, and what is the redress for the people of Wairoa. We want answers on this issue, and we're not going to sit around on our backsides and wait for too long. We want answers.
And waiting until the investigation is completed, which is expected at the end of this month, isn't good enough for you?
No, it's not. It's not good enough. We need to be part of the process as it goes along. We need to understand this issue. We have constituents to meet, and just because they live in the hills of Wairoa, it's no excuse. And it's not just concerns the people of Wairoa. Everyone in Hawke's Bay, everyone in New Zealand is concerned that this river was polluted. And it's our responsibility as councillors of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council to protect our rivers. So it's our responsibility. We need to know all the information as it proceeds down the track. And even if that information is given to us in confidence, I'm fine with that. But I need to know, how can we make a decision on this when we don't have the information in hand?
Do you have any idea why they might be withholding that information from you?
I have no idea.
Are you concerned that maybe that it implicates the officials?
No, I'm not. I'm not prepared to be subjective on that. I don't have any idea. And, they have withheld it. I just want it.
I just wanted Rex Graham talking to Kate Gudsall. By the way, Rex Graham says despite the withholding of the information, he still has confidence in the council officials. He did want to point that out. A Canterbury man who flew a drone over a forest fire, has been found guilty of breaching new Civil Aviation Authority rules in the first prosecution of its kind. Simon Roy Reef used the drone to film the fires at Pines Beach near Christchurch in January of last year. The 38-year-old was found guilty of all 3 charges laid by the CAA, 1 of causing unnecessary endangerment and 2 of flying the drone in a controlled airspace without permission. Bureau Chief Reporter Belinda McCammon joins us now from our Christchurch newsroom. Welcome to Checkpoint, Belinda. Why was Simon Reeve filming the fire?
Well, he lives near the area, and when he heard about the fire, he went down specifically with his drone to film it. Now, whether it was for his personal use or to sell onto a news outlet, which is what he eventually did, Judge McCaskill in his decision today said that that didn't actually negate the dangerous nature of what he was doing.
So what was it exactly that was dangerous? What was wrong in terms of the law?
Well, the Civil Aviation Authority brought in these new laws in August last year, and it's essentially to cope with the influx of drones in the country being operated by amateur operators. The Civil Aviation Authority argues that these aircraft are the same essentially as small aircraft and are just as dangerous. So when they heard that Simon Reeve had been operating a drone at the fire, when a helicopter was also at the fire, which in the helicopter was being used to bring water in to put the fire out, they said that that posed a risk to the helicopter and to the pilot, and that's why they have laid these new charges, or the first of its kind, under the new laws.
Right, Belinda, what are the penalties that Reeve faces?
He faces up to 12 months in prison or a $10,000 fine. Sentencing's in July, but it was noted that in the brief comments that Judge McCaskill made today, he said that some media had been unfair, he felt, in the reporting of this case, and that he wanted it noted that Reeve hadn't operated the drone when helicopters were actively dousing the fire. However, Judge McCaskill did find that his actions were dangerous. There was a judge-alone trial that was held last month, and Simon Reeve in that trial said that at all times he had the drone in his line of sight, and that if he had thought that the helicopter was going to be coming into the same area, he would have landed the drone, or he would have brought it down past out to the right altitude, or if need be, crashed it into a tree. However, an expert from the Civil Aviation Authority said that essentially, this drone is an aircraft. There was also another aircraft operating at the same time. And in normal situations, 2 pilots need to brief each other about their flight plans. And the helicopter pilot at this forest fire was not aware that the drone was there. And due to the unpredictable nature of the fire, because of course smoke, that the drone and the helicopter may have had to suddenly change path.
Our Christchurch Bureau Chief Belinda McCammon, thanks so much, Belinda. Appreciate it. On Twitter, Sir WB, who is fairly reliable, has said CAA also fined a Palmy man who flew his drone on the 25th of April last year. He broke CAA rules by flying before sunrise and also within 4K of an aerodrome, namely the Palmy Hospital helipad, without permission. He was fined and he didn't contest but paid the fine. Sounds like the Christchurch man decided to contest the fines in court and lost, or decided to actually contest the charges, didn't he? Thank you so much for that, Sir William Blackstone, and go the Hurricanes this weekend. A rescue effort is underway to save a 60-year-old mosaic sitting in an Auckland theatre set for demolition, the Odeon Theatre next to the St James on Queen Street. Our older listeners will remember it vividly, which is undergoing a major reconstruction. That's St James. That involves building a 39-storey apartment building and demolishing the Odeon. But amongst the rubble, construction workers are now trying to save the 30 square metre mosaic that used to sit in the lobby. The recovery is led by George Farrant. He begins this report by our reporter Alex Ashton.
Here we are in what was the front lobby, the combined lobby for the West End and the Odeon, and right at the back, decorating the previous lobby, was this incredible mural made in ceramic, glazed and glass tiling by expat New Zealand architect Maurice Keith Smith.
George Farrant is on a mission to get the mosaic out in one piece. That is, though, speaking figuratively. In fact, the mosaic has to be carefully carved up, removed as 200 separate pieces, then reassembled later. No easy feat, says Mr. Farrant.
It's fairly heroic. I've been involved with some Roman mosaic in the Middle East, And that was dead easy compared to this. The concrete in here is like steel.
Jeff mentioned Morris Keith Smith before, the architect who designed the piece in the Odeon back in 1957.
Good evening.
Morris left New Zealand for Massachusetts in 1958. He's 89 now, Emeritus Professor at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Before that, though, he was a lecturer at the Auckland School of Architecture, and George Farrant, one of his students.
He was an interesting character. He was quite lateral in his approach to life.
He says Morris Smith designed some marvellous artworks and houses, but most of them have been altered beyond recognition or demolished. That's why George says saving this mosaic is so important.
Unfortunately, most of his work just hasn't made it. He's an architect that was perhaps more celebrated in the US, where he now is, still alive. And of course we're in contact with him over the future of this mural. He's an emeritus professor at Harvard MIT at the moment, and greatly valued in the United States, but a sort of prophet without honour in New Zealand architecture.
So what does Morris Smith, the designer, think of all of this?
When I left Auckland, there wasn't all that much of that kind of stuff. I left before it was open. I never saw it with people in it. But that's that.
So are you glad to hear that it's being moved?
Well, I'm not annoyed. It's better than. Well, yeah. I mean, how can you not how can you be annoyed?
Once the mosaic is out, the next question is where to? George Farrant says ideally he wants it somewhere public and indoors, but in the meantime, he says the mosaic will likely sit in storage. For Checkpoint, Alex Ashton.
3.5 minutes to 6. Is this going to be one of the disputes of the 21st century? Access to fish. The front-runner in the Philippines presidential election is adding a twist to the international dispute over the South China Sea, offering to negotiate directly with Beijing. Rodrigo Duterte, a mayor who has been compared with Donald Trump, says if he's elected, he's willing to talk with Beijing and is open to discussing joint exploration of resources in the South China Sea. It comes as fishermen in the Philippines, whose livelihoods have been hit hard by the dispute and by diminishing resources, hope for a tough new president to be elected on May 9th. Here's Paul Chapman from Reuters.
Times are tough in the Philippines' fishing town of Masinloc. Its inhabitants say their livelihoods have been hit by China's disputed claims over most of the South China Sea. Chinese Coast Guard vessels are blocking the entrance to Scarborough Shoal, which the Philippines also claims. With elections fast approaching in the Philippines, some are hoping a new president will bring decisive action. Former boat captain Biani Mula, now driving a motorcycle cab for a living, is one of them.
Iniisip namin yan nung medyo matapang-tapang naman ng...
We want a tougher president who will make China leave the Philippines area. That area is not their property.
Philippine Sea. Dahil hindi naman talaga sa kanila yun eh.
Others, like fish seller Joy Tupaz, favour a more conciliatory approach to the problem.
Ang sabi nga dito, kapag daw nag-anuhan ito yung gira na nga, yun ang kinatakot din namin, sir.
There's been talk about war, but we're afraid of fighting. I hope that won't happen.
Manisid na lang sana. Magkaisa na lang sana na.
Let us just fish. Let everyone be allowed to fish in Scarborough.
Na yung mga maninisid sa Scarborough, manisid na rin sila doon. Payagan na lang nila.
The Philippines has taken the dispute to an international arbitration court whose ruling China says it won't recognize. Military analyst Professor Jose Custodio doesn't hold out much hope the fortunes of Masinloc's fishing community will change anytime soon.
The only way for China to behave is if there is an international coordinated effort to show to it that unilateral aggressive acts don't pay.
More than 54 million Filipinos are eligible to vote in presidential and parliamentary elections on May the 9th. Here in Masinloc, while some are hopeful the South China Sea dispute can be resolved, nobody's betting on when.
that report from Reuters in the Philippines, of course. We are getting the loveliest feedback about the Syrian refugees who are now living in Canada and who are giving what little they have to the Canadians who have adopted them. Very moving interview with a woman who lost everything in Aleppo. Her house was destroyed by a rocket, and she started from scratch in Canada, but the moment she saw the homes in Fort McMurray going down, burning, she knew that those people had been through what she'd been through, and she decided to start a collection. Thank you, all of you who have expressed how moved you were by her generosity and kindness. Lovely to hear from you all. It's coming up to 6 o'clock. Kia ora everyone, you're with Checkpoint on RNZ National. It's wonderful to have you with us at 6 o'clock on a Friday night. However you are joining us, thank you for being here. In the next 30 minutes, we go back to those catastrophic wildfires in Canada. Quite extraordinary scenes, and we're going to talk to a man who witnessed them very close up indeed. A brawl in Tokoroa forces court staff and a judge to lock themselves in, and the realities of living as a parent in the inner city. This is a delightful story about the increasing number of toddlers in downtown Auckland, making their homes in the high-rise apartments all around us here. But before all of that, here's Katrina Batten with RNZ News.
Ngā mihi nui, good evening. A gang brawl inside the Tokoroa District Court forced staff and the judge to lock themselves in a safe area of the court where the fight made the walls move. Tracy Klenner from the PSA union, which represents court staff, says the violence quickly escalated. Edward Gay reports.
Ms Klenner says police were called, but at the time no police officers or security staff were in the court. She says there was no scanner at the entrance to the court either. A Ministry of Justice spokesperson said the Tokoroa incident started outside the courthouse before moving inside the foyer. He said the ministry will be following it up, but could not make further comment because the matter was before the courts. A police spokesperson said no one was injured, 5 people were arrested and 4 have been charged. Tracy Klenner says the PSA has been raising issues of security at the district courts with the ministry for some time. This is Edward Gay.
A guilty finding for a Canterbury man who operated a drone at a forest fire is being held up as a reminder that they're not toys. A judge said it was proved Simon Roy Reeve caused danger to a pilot and his helicopter, and it was possible the helicopter would collide with the drone. 38-year-old Reeve used the drone to film the fire at Pines Beach near Christchurch in January last year. The Civil Aviation Authority laid 3 charges, including unnecessary endangerment and flying the drone in a controlled airspace without permission. The authority's director, Graham Harris, says the outcome should highlight new RPA or drone rules that came into effect last August. Reeve could face maximum penalties of up to 12 months in prison or a fine of up to $10,000. A New Zealand family who fled wildfires in Alberta, Canada, don't know if they'll have a home to return to. The blaze has forced the entire population of Fort McMurray to flee and has exploded in size, burning across 85,000 hectares, prompting more and more evacuations. A former Oamaru man, Craig Rowland, says they only had time to pack 2 suitcases before fleeing. Mr. Rowland says they had just started packing the car when they saw the flames hit houses several blocks away.
It was surreal. Ashes falling out of the sky. It's pitch black. You see flames coming up. There's no noise. It's just quiet, and everyone just sort of sat there for like 30 seconds on the street, almost just looking at the flames, and then it's boom, switch into a sort of adrenaline, panic mode, preservation mode.
Craig Rowland says he escaped to Calgary with his wife and 2 young children. Controversial New Plymouth Mayor Andrew Judd has announced he won't seek a second term in office. Mr Judd says he's been spat at and abused in the streets over his failed attempt to introduce a Māori ward in New Plymouth and doesn't want to see the issue rehashed ahead of October's local body elections. Our Taranaki reporter Robin Martin has more.
Mr Judd, who describes himself as a recovering racist, says he knows he has lost support over his move for a Māori ward, which was overwhelmingly rejected in a public-initiated referendum last year. Veteran councillor Gordon Brown today offered his support, saying he had witnessed first-hand personal attacks on the mayor. Meanwhile, first-term councillor Richard Handley says he'll be a candidate for the job. Mr Judd was elected in 2013 in a landslide victory over the incumbent mayor, former Labour MP Harry Duynhoven. This is Robin Martin.
The Republican Speaker of the United States House of Representatives says he's not yet ready to support Donald Trump as the party's candidate for the presidency. The billionaire businessman seems certain to win the Republican nomination. The BBC's Laura Bicker reports.
House Speaker Paul Ryan is the Republican Party's highest-ranking office holder, but he's not willing to endorse Donald Trump. He said he wanted to be able to support the billionaire, but he wasn't ready to do that. He said Republicans needed someone to unify the party. Mr Trump has responded saying he's not ready to support Speaker Ryan's agenda and added that the American people have been treated so badly for so long, it's time politicians put them first. But Mr Ryan is not alone in withholding an endorsement. Two former Republican presidents, George W. Bush and his father George Bush Sr., have said they will not back the controversial businessman.
Laura Bicker in Washington. Labour has suffered a drubbing in Scotland and setbacks south of the border in elections seen as the first nationwide verdict on Jeremy Corbyn's leadership of the party. Labour looks set to slump into third place in Scottish Parliament polls, losing more than 9 points in its share of the vote. In highly symbolic results, Labour lost the totemic Rhondda seat in the Welsh Assembly to Plaid Cymru leader Leanne Wood and saw the Scottish National Party pull off a clean sweep of seats in its one-time stronghold of Glasgow. Labour's losses in English councils were less deep than some predicted. Counting was yet to begin in elections to the Northern Ireland Assembly and London's mayoralty. To sport, the Kangaroos Rugby League captain Cameron Smith concedes the Kiwis' dominance over them in recent years has taken a toll on the Australian public support. The Kiwis have won their last 3 encounters, but the world #1 ranking is up for grabs when the two sides meet in Newcastle tonight.
We need to be playing well and hopefully winning to regain a bit more of that support from the public. You know, the guys that have been here for a long time, you know, we're all quite disappointed with that record. So this week it's all about making sure that we give ourselves an opportunity of beating the Kiwis.
The New Zealand and Australian women's teams also meet tonight in Newcastle. The Crusaders captain Kieran Reid expects former teammate Brad Thorne to have the Queensland Reds forwards fired up for tonight's Super Rugby game in Christchurch. Former All Black Thorne joined the Reds as an assistant coach last month, and Reid says they expect his style of play to be evident tonight.
Their scrum's certainly very strong. Certainly the way Brad scrummed, I guess, is one of the things, and they're a good side at the breakdown. I think that's something we've got to be wary on. We can't just expect things to happen and just be running for plums this week. It's, you know, one of those games you've got to work really hard and get the breakdown right, and, you know, things will fly off from there.
Kieran Reid. Sir Bob Charles, New Zealand's most celebrated golfer, has become an honorary member of the Royal and Ancient Golf Club of St Andrews. Charles was the first left-handed golfer to win a major when he was victorious at the 1963 Open Championship. He won nearly 80 titles around the world and was admitted to the World Golf Hall of Fame in 2008. That's the news.
This week for Music 101, a sampler summit on Beyoncé's Lemonade.
Beyoncé is functioning as a preacher and professor, inviting us in to dig a little deeper into American musical expressions and its relationships to Black culture.
Hold up, they don't love you like I love you. Slow down, they don't love you like I love you. Yumi Zuma on their debut LP, Yon Kala. You never promised nothing. And a mixtape from New Zealand On Air's new head of music, David Riddler. That's Music 101 with me, Kirsten Johnstone, Saturday at 2 here on RNZ National.
Met service weather to midnight tomorrow, Saturday, yay. Northland, Auckland and Coromandel Peninsula, scattered showers mainly north of Auckland City, some possibly heavy tomorrow. Waikato to Wellington, including the Central High Country, and from Gisborne to Wairarapa, fine or becoming fine this afternoon or evening. Areas of fog tomorrow morning. Nelson, Buller, Marlborough and Canterbury, fine. Southland and Otago, high cloud tomorrow with a few spots of rain about western Otago. For Westland, becoming cloudy tomorrow. Fiordland, drizzle about the fjords, turning to widespread rain tonight. And the Chatham Islands, low cloud tomorrow with late drizzle. Sit up, John. It's 9 minutes past 6.
It's terrible, isn't it? I slouch beside you like Archie Bunker. Do you remember Archie Bunker?
I do remember Archie Bunker. Yeah.
My dad used to roar with laughter when he was watching it. Older viewers will Listen, older listeners will remember him. I'm not sure you'd get away with Archie Bunker on TV these days, would you?
No, I don't think so.
Anyway. It's 6:09. Have a wonderful weekend, Katrina Batten.
You too.
What rugby team do you support?
The Hurricanes, of
Right.
course.
Go the Canes.
Go the Canes.
Let's go to Canada. We began the show with this tonight, and it is pretty extraordinary. The catastrophic wildfire that has forced the entire population of a Canadian city to flee has exploded in size, burning and across an area the equivalent of 850 square kilometres now. 88,000 residents have been evacuated, and now people in evacuation centres up to 50k away may have to be moved again. Fort McMurray resident Michelle Chamberlain's story has gone around the world after harrowing footage captured on his dash cam shows the town completely devastated, towering flames on either side of the road and embers falling onto his car. Michelle had just finished a night shift. He'd gone to bed when he was woken by a friend ringing him and saying, "Get up and get out." Michelle got into his car and managed to leave town with just half a tank of petrol, driving to his parents' home in Edmonton, where I spoke to him this afternoon. If you're watching us on Freeview, Channel 50, or online, Michelle's footage is quite incredible.
I had just woken up from a phone call from a friend telling me that they're now evacuating my neighborhood because I was supposed to go into work that night. So when I got that call, I wasn't sure if his information was accurate, and until I looked for myself outside, and you could see the smoke, the flames. You can hear the flames crackling behind my neighbors' homes there in the trees beyond. It really hit me, and I was like, wow, I got to go.
It's extraordinary how fast that blaze was moving, how big it got and how quickly it was moving. So what did you do? You got into your car, obviously. What happened then?
I grabbed a bag of clothes, wallet, passport, and hopped in the truck, and immediately was at the end of the traffic line. There was a long line up to get out, and it was slow moving. It felt like a long time, a long ways. As we slowly moved and crept forward, those flames started to get bigger and bigger, and the wind changing all the time. It was just fueling that fire. You would see the flames jump to another tree and slowly work its way up, and eventually overtop the tree, and then embers falling down, smoke. Your eyes start to get watery. You could feel the heat from the trees, the fire. Yeah.
You could feel the heat. So you're stuck in heavy traffic. Everyone is trying to do the same thing as you're doing, which is get the hell out of there. And the flames are moving fast, and they're moving unpredictably, and you can feel the heat.
You could feel the heat. Like in the videos, you'll see us pull over to the left. That's because and you'll notice the screen glowing more orange, and that's when we were starting to feel. You could feel the heat. We were worried about the car catching on fire, or breaking down, or a tire popping, or just that car is kind of your protection. They're trying to get out, and you're going through your mind. Am I gonna start driving in our lane? Start driving on people's yards, over the fence? You thought about it. Yeah.
And you had a dash cam, right? Why did you have that? What was that? Do you just have that as part of your ordinary life?
Yeah, I bought it a few years ago. I was concerned about insurance claims. It's just there for proof.
What do you think when you see that footage now? What do you think? Wow, that was me.
Yeah, I look it over and I was like, wow, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe that happened in my community, and all these homes are gone now, and yeah. A lot of people are, devastated, lost a lot of memories, and it's just bare and charred, flat. You can't believe everything's gone.
When you were sitting in that traffic, and everyone is in the same predicament, and I have a sense that people were behaving incredibly reasonably, which reflects so well on people. But what was going through your mind as you were thinking, please move, please get out of here?
Yeah, it was pretty orderly, a lot of the comments that you've seen on YouTube. Yeah, it was, you try to keep your cool, you know, we'll get through this. It's slowly moving. You don't want to cause an accident either, or hurt somebody, or get yourself hurt and get yourself in a more worse situation. You just try to keep cool, you know, try not to panic. Yeah.
What's there now from what you've left? Is there anything there? Is your home, is anything standing?
I have no idea. From what I'm hearing on the reports and videos and pictures on the Beacon Hill neighborhood, they're saying 70 to 80% of the homes and infrastructure destroyed.
Kind of a mixed blessing, isn't it? Because at some level, you know, what makes somewhere good to live is what it's surrounded by, right? Everyone else who's there, the community, the shops, the schools, all the stuff, that's what defines your home, isn't it? And so if 70 or 80% of it is gone, you know, do you want to be part of the 20% that's remaining?
Because it could be damage, it could be a lot of work to it too, right? You don't know what's left. It could be half there or half not, or you don't know, right? And it's a little worrisome, you know.
Are you insured?
Yes, I am.
Great. Where are you now? Where are you talking to us from?
I'm at my parents' home in the west end of Edmonton. Yeah.
So you drove how far? How far did you drive to get there?
It was close to 5-hour commute from me. Thankfully I beat most of the gridlock and the traffic. It's a good 430 to 460 kilometers away.
And does it feel like far enough? Is because that fire? It's such a terrible fire, isn't it?
Yeah, we're far enough. There's a few other small fires around the area, but we're far enough from McMurray.
Michelle Chamberlain, whose footage from the dash cam of his car as he left Fort McMurray really is quite extraordinary. 6:16 a gang brawl inside the Tokoroa District Court forced staff and the judge to lock themselves inside a courtroom while the fight raged outside in the foyer. The PSA union, which represents court staff, says there were no security officers or police on hand when the fight broke out. Our court reporter, Edward Gay, filed this report.
Tracy Klenner from the PSA said hearings were going on at the small Tokoroa District Court when a violent situation escalated quickly.
The public and the judiciary were scared for their safety and they locked themselves in the kind of exit rooms that are at the back of the courtrooms, and that the violence was of such a nature that there were people getting thrown about, and it was enough to make the kind of walls move about in the courts.
She says the staff have been debriefed and filled out health and safety reports, but they're still frightened for their safety.
We understand that there were no court security present at the day, on the day of the court, that there was risk assessments done that was of lower risk and that the police were looking to support, but due to their resourcing issues were unable to support as well. So there was essentially no uniformed security, police or court security there on the day.
Tracy Klenner says there was also no scanner at the entrance to the court. A local lawyer who was in the courtroom at the time and didn't want to be named said children were out in the foyer crying and had to be rushed into an office for their protection. She said while there are security staff at WINS and ACC offices, small courtrooms around the country, often staffed by women, were left to fend for themselves. Another lawyer who was in court at the time, Marianne Crapp, said the court registrar locked the courtroom door and stopped people in the public gallery from leaving, while banging, shouting and swearing could be heard outside. She described the senior registrar's fearless actions as heroic. Ms Klenner said the issue is not limited to Tokoroa, and on the same day there were 21 courtrooms around the country with no security staff present. Last week there was a similar incident in Kaikohe where some people were armed with weapons, but security staff were able to defuse the situation. In a written statement, a police spokesperson confirmed no officers were at the court at the time, but because the station is close by, they were able to respond quickly.
As a result, 5 people were arrested, of which 4 are facing charges, while inquiries are continuing into a number of other individuals who are believed to have been involved. Police is also continuing to work with court staff and management to ensure all visitors and people attending court are kept safe in future.
A Ministry of Justice spokesperson said the ministry will be following up on the incident, but couldn't make any further comment because the matter was before the courts. For Checkpoint, Edward Gay.
6:19. We here at Radio New Zealand Auckland are right in the CBD, and we're surrounded by thousands of people who live here. Now, an online study run by Plunkett found there's a lack of child-friendly facilities in the CBD, and many parents and apartments around us find it hard to meet people and make connections. So they decided to set up a weekly Friday meet-up to take a break and let their kids run wild, and our wonderful reporter Mohammed Hassan went along.
It's not the sound you expect to hear amid the hustle of Auckland City, but there's now over 1,000 toddlers who call the CBD home. Today, many of their parents are meeting for the first time. Michelle has lived and worked in the city for 3.5 years. She's brought her 16-month-old son with her.
Well, I want to meet other mothers in the inner city because, I don't know, when you walk around all the time you don't know who's living here or people just, coming in for work, and it's just nice to know who the community is and get to know the kids and other families.
Her son's just climbed into a bucket of water, so Judy calls.
Sorry.
That's right. So this is clearly your other full-time job.
Yes, it is. Yeah. This is really good to start meeting other people in the same position because I don't know who else is out there. Living in an apartment in the city, it sometimes can be isolating.
Yashaswini Kamate has only been living here for 6 or 7 months and is a full-time parent. She says it's been hard finding a space for her 2-year-old daughter to play, which is why she's here.
In cities, the apartments are quite small and kids need a space to run around, explore themselves, keep themselves busy.
What do you think a place like this can do for parents like yourself?
I can get some time for myself. I can watch, she'll be playing around and I can get some relaxed time as well.
The mums met online through a Plunkett study where they shared their experiences about the struggles of parenting in the city. The Plunkett project manager, Jackie Arnold, says there's not a lot of support for them.
Parents are really lonely, partly because the buildings are all really high-rise and you don't know your neighbour, you come from different countries, but also partly because there isn't anything to support families in the city. So there is one playground, Myers Park, that's suitable for under 5s. There is no warm, dry spaces for kids to play other than the library.
Dan Fay, who took part in the study, says even though the Auckland City Library hosts events for under 5s, it's not always an ideal place.
The library is kind of a public space. If you have young children in there, they make a lot of noise and they run around and they pull off the books on the shelf.
So you brought your son or your daughter today?
Yeah, my son was here. He's somewhere. He's 20 months old.
They've been in the city for 6 years, and while she's thought many times about moving to the suburbs, she says it's become way too expensive.
The housing prices is just getting crazy. It's unaffordable. Before that, everybody seems to move to the suburbs once they have kids. But now the times changed. It's just become so unaffordable. I think more and more parents choose to stay in the city.
More than 80 parents have so far signed up to the playgroup, which came together for only the second time this morning. It hopes to entice more parents to join and build a community of both parents and children to help make the city just a little bit friendlier. For Checkpoint, Mohammed Hassan.
Hundreds of sheepdog trail enthusiasts have descended upon a remote valley in Taranaki for the North Island Sheepdog Trail Champs this week. And while titles have been up for grabs, as our Taranaki reporter Robin Martin found out, the champs are also an opportunity to share tales and catch up with old mates.
The president of the Taranaki Sheepdog Trails Association, Lloyd Bishop, knows when he's onto a good thing, and he reckons everyone should visit the Mangamingi Valley in eastern Taranaki.
These are magnificent hills down in this Mangamingi Valley. It's just amazing. You drive out, come out over the top of the Mangamingi Hill there, and the country just changes. It's worth a drive out just to see. And of course our hills here, they're regarded as probably one of the best courses in the country even.
Mangamingi, the North Island's only championship-level course, has been hosting about 400 dog handlers competing in 4 divisions of heading and hunt-away dog trialling. And while that might sound intimidating, Lloyd Bishop reckons dog trialling is for everyone.
It's an amazing sport. You can have anything from a 15-year-old kid to an 83-year-old man competing in the sport. It's very versatile in that regards. So yeah, it's a sport for anyone really. You don't even have to necessarily be a farmer.
Matamata's Alan Smith has been dog trialling since he was a teenager, and at 77 years old, he's not here just to make up the numbers.
You aim for the top, but you don't always get there. No, it's a sport that anybody can sort of take on, and it's a good sport. You can get a puppy and break it in and bring it out and compete with it and win with it. It's a real buzz, really.
Alan Smith reckons the best part of trialling is the sense of camaraderie.
It's good. You get out each year and like the North Island fellas go to the south and vice versa and meet all up with all your mates. It's a real good. It's real good fun.
Gisborne farmer Annie Flood is one of just 15 women in the field. She's got sheepdog trials in her blood.
Well, I'm off the land anyway. And of course my husband Morris, he started off as being a shepherd on the high country and probably had a lot to do with my gaining experience on hill country, and we both do it together and it's really good. It's something that's part and parcel of what we do as farmers.
Annie Flood says she has no problem earning the respect of her male counterparts.
That's not a problem at all. Not a problem. No, they're all good guys. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a sport that both girls and women and men can do just equally, I think. And as time goes on, there is actually more women coming through, which is good to see.
It's not all been about competitions and titles, of course. A sawdust bar has been doing a steady trade, and the cookhouse has been chocker all week. Cookhouse boss Sam Lowry and his team of volunteers have been up at dawn creating a menu that doesn't sound half bad.
First day was hot ham with all the trimmings, vegetables and roast veggie salads, 2 or 3 salads every day. Second day was Scotch fillet steak, and then today we're on to, what have we got today? Oh, venison casserole. Oh, I had lamb one day as well, so yeah, good taco.
The next event on the sheepdog trial circuit is the National Championships in Canterbury at the end of the month. For Checkpoint, Robin Martin.
That did sound like good tucker. Right, let's end the week by talking about sport. Lots of it this weekend. Joe Porter, who joins us live now from the Wellington studio. Joe, nice to see you. Nice shirt. Let's talk about the Kiwis. Kiwis Kangaroos tonight. The poor old Kiwis.
Yes.
Yeah, they're up against it,
a hiding to nothing, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Decimated by injuries as well as suspensions for other reasons. The Warriors suspending 6 of their players for off-the-field incidents, of course robbing the Kiwis of 2 of their most senior stars in Ben Matulino and Manu Vatuve. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, star fullback, injured. Captain Simon Mannering injured. They've had so many off-field issues that none of the focus this week has been on this test at all. Coach Stephen Kearney has simply been fielding questions about the bigger, wider issues facing the NRL and perhaps the cocktail of mixing prescription drugs with energy drinks. So certainly the Kiwis on a hiding to nothing. The Aussies, by comparison, have had no drama.
Yeah, none.
And a very focused build-up. They've got all the stars available. So yeah, the Kiwis, they've beaten the Aussies 3 times in a row, and they've won last year's mid-year test for the first time since 1998. But record books, they're 14 losses, 2 wins in this test. This year, I think, is going to be a real struggle for the Kiwis to get over the line. But hey, they've been completely written off, and that's often the best place to be.
Yeah, I agree. Gosh, Jesse Bromwich is a lovely young man, isn't he? We spoke to him last night on Checkpoint. How will he go as captain? Very quickly, Joe, because we want to talk Super 15, but you reckon he's got it?
Well, he's certainly got the respect of his teammates, and he is one of the premier props in the game, so he's got the respect of being one of the best in his position, which gives you a lot of credit from the first get-go. And we just see from the reaction, there was some video of when he was named the Kiwis captain from inside the Storm's changing room over the weekend after they played, and the Aussie captain, Cameron Smith, jumping in the air. They all got around him, slapping him on the back, celebrating. It's obviously a sign of what a man he is, that even his Aussie counterparts were absolutely rapt that this guy was given the Kiwis captaincy.
Yeah. OK, we've got a minute and a half, Joe, so we've got to rattle through this. The Super 15 game of the round is the Chiefs Highlanders. That's a cracker, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Top of the table Chiefs, front runners in the competition, 37 points, way out in front. The defending champion Highlanders doing it a little bit tougher, but you've got to remember these New Zealand teams, they're 4th in New Zealand Conference, but they're still 6th overall, only about 9 points behind. They've got the Hurricanes and the Crusaders ahead because of how good these New Zealand teams are going. Chiefs Highlanders, defending champs versus would-be champs this year. Aaron Smith, first five, versus Lima Sopawanga. All Blacks both battling for that first five spot. Aaron Cruden, Lima Sopawanga. Aaron Smith, Brad Weber at halfback. Another two All Blacks. Ben Smith at fullback versus the standout of the Super Rugby, Damien McKenzie, who's going to be an All Black this year. Charlie Ngatai in the midfield, another All Black in waiting versus current All Black Malachi Feketoa, and the return of All Black Waisaki Naholo from another broken leg. So a lot to look forward to from this game. And if the Chiefs win, they really extend that lead at the top, and it'll be very, very hard for any other New Zealand team to catch them. The Highlanders, they need to win to stay in touch with these other top four New Zealand sides.
I'm in awe of you, Joe. The way you're talking about all this. Can the Blues win overseas for the first time in about 114 years?
You'd think so. It's the Kings who have barely scraped together a half-decent performance this season. You'd imagine they're heavy favourites to win, and surely in South Africa it's an easy pickings for them, but never say never. It is the Blues.
No. And the Canes, are they going to win against the Sharks? That's a tough contest. The Sharks at home are good.
Yeah, they are, and the Canes put in a massive performance last week, so it'll be hard to go 2 from 2, but to come back from Africa with 2 wins puts them right in the mix for that New Zealand conference title, so they really will target this one as a must-win. And the Sharks haven't been great, so let's hope the Hurricanes get up and bring two wins back from South Africa.
Joe Porter, a tour de force by you to end the week. Thank you for being with us, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back at 5 o'clock on Monday night.
RNZ News headlines at 6:30. Court staff and a judge had to lock themselves in a safe area when a gang brawl broke outside the Tokoroa District Court. Officials say residents who fled a wildfire engulfing the Canadian city of Fort McMurray will not be able to return home anytime soon. Hawke's Bay regional councillors say they're being prevented from doing their job after officials refused to give them a report on the failure of the Waihi Dam. And New Plymouth Mayor Andrew Judd says he will not seek a second term in office. Our next news and weather is at 7.
Welcome to World Watch PM on RNZ Now.